Okay, the most important thing that we need to remember for FCFF based valuation are the formulas. If you know the formulas, you are going to be fine, and you'll be able to do most of the questions just by remembering the formulas. So the free cash flows, the first formula, you'll only need to remember 4 formulas. Number 1. Number 2, there are 3 formulas for FCFF. The first one is when you started with after-tax operating income. So EBIT in 1 minus T into 1 minus T. So T is the tax rate, earning before interest and tax into 1 minus T. In this, you add back non-cash charges, most notable of which is depreciation. Right, because again we are looking for a cash flow measure, and earning before interest and tax has already subtracted depreciation, so we need to add back depreciation. Then because it is free cash flow, therefore you also need to take out any investment related cash flows that the company needs in order to grow as per their requirement. So you need to take out the fixed capital investment as well as the working capital investment. These are the 4 inputs that are necessary in the formula, which starts with EBIT into 1 minus T. The second formula, which starts with net income, same, free cash flows to the firm. When you start with net income, again because you've already subtracted interest, therefore you need to add interest back. You didn't do this interest into 1 minus T, you did not add this number back in the previous formula, which was this, because interest has not yet been deducted. This is interest before interest and tax, therefore earning before interest and tax, interest has not yet been deducted from this, therefore you do not need to add back interest. And why are we adding back interest? One last point, because this is free cash flow to the firm. So firm means that debt holders as well as equity holders have an ownership stake in this cash flow, and interest is the property of the debt holders. And as we've said, free cash flows to the firm are also available to the debt holders, therefore you need to have the interest added back, you cannot subtract it, right? Then non-cash charges, depreciation for example, the rest is the same basically, fixed capital investment and working capital investment. So you got 5 terms here. The only new entrant is the interest into 1 minus T. Lastly, the third formula of FCFF is when you start with the cash flow from operations, which is the measure which is available in the statement of cash flows, cash flow statement. Now this already accounts for the working capital and depreciation and net income. So this cash flow from operations already accounts for these variables, therefore you do not need these specifically. The other 2 variables are not accounted for, they are not adjusted in the cash flow from operations, therefore you need these 2, right? If I change the color, you need these 2, 1 and 2 on top of the cash flow from operations. So you add interest into 1 minus T back, and you subtract fixed capital investment. So only 3 items needed here. Lastly, just one more formula, which is free cash flows to equity holders. The E is free cash flows to equity holders, and although you can have different variants of this formula as well, but if you start the formula with FCFF, then you only need to remember one formula. And because this is the cash flow to equity holders, therefore you need to subtract the claim of the debt holders, which is the interest, and then add back net borrowing. Net borrowing in this case is new debt issued minus debt repaid. These are your 4 formulas. Learn them well, practice them well, and you're well on your way to securing good marks in the final exam. Thank you.